Wyoming love story. The cold Wyoming wind blew hard through the cracks in Samuel Garrett's cabin walls as he came through the door. Snow stuck to his old coat. 3 days in Rock Springs had made him very tired. He wanted the quiet of his 40 acres of land. But quiet was not what waited for him. In the dim light from the fire, he saw her. A woman was under his blankets. Her dark hair spread across his pillow like spilled ink. His hand went to the gun at his side. The cold metal felt heavy in his palm. "Don't move," he said quietly through the dark. She turned slowly. She had brown skin and eyes that showed no fear. Only fierce, desperate pride. When she spoke, her voice had the sound of Spanish mixed with something older. Something that made his chest feel tight. "Shoot then," she said, lifting her chin. "But you'll never know why I'm here." The wind outside seemed to stop. In that moment, two broken people faced each other in a room that would change them both forever. The meeting. Samuel kept the gun pointed at her as he lit the oil lamp. Golden light filled the small cabin. What he saw made him catch his breath. Not just her beauty, though that hit him hard. It was the smart look in her dark eyes. The way she studied him just like he was studying her. Her dress was torn at the shoulder. Mud covered her legs where her skirt had been ripped. Her feet were bare and bloody from running across the frozen ground. But she sat in his bed like a queen, not backing down under his stare. "Name's Isabella Santos," she said, testing each English word carefully. "You are Samuel Garrett, yes?" "The soldier who speaks Apache." He went stiff. Few people knew he could speak that language. Even fewer would dare mention it. "How do you know that?" Her lips curved in a smile with no warmth. "Men talk, especially when they drink." She moved slightly. "I know you fought at San Carlos. I know you left the army when they made you watch innocent people die." The gun shook in his hand. Those were things no one should know. Memories he'd buried deep as winter frost. "Who sent you?" "No one sends me anywhere," she said, fire flashing in her eyes. "I go where I choose. Tonight I chose your bed." The words hung between them, loaded with meaning he wasn't ready to think about. Outside, the storm got stronger, making the shutters shake. She was trapped here until morning. They both were. "There are bounty hunters looking for you," he said. Everything about her screamed trouble. "3 of them," she said. "Led by Blake. You know him?" Samuel's jaw went tight. Blake was a man who had enjoyed killing too much, even by army rules. "What did you do?" Isabella's eyes went distant. "I saved children. Your government calls it treason." Days together. Days turned into a rhythm neither of them had expected. Isabella moved through his cabin like water, learning where he kept the coffee, how he liked his meat cooked, the way he cleaned his guns. She didn't ask permission. She just began filling the spaces around him with natural grace that left him always aware of her. Watching her was becoming something he couldn't stop. The way she'd stretch in the morning light through the window, arms raised above her head. How she'd hum softly in Spanish while cooking, her hips moving to some inner song that made his mouth go dry. "You're staring again," she said one evening, not looking up from fixing his shirt. Her fingers worked the needle carefully, and he found himself thinking about those same fingers touching his skin. "Hard not to," he said, surprising himself with his honesty. She looked up, eyes dancing with mischief. "In my village, when a man looks at a woman like that, it means something." "What's it mean?" "That is thinking about things that would make the priest blush." Heat crawled up his neck. She wasn't wrong. Every night, lying on the floor while she slept in his bed, he thought about climbing up beside her. About finding out if her skin was as soft as it looked. The breaking point. The breaking point came during her 3rd week there. He'd been chopping wood outside when he heard splashing from inside. Through the cabin window, he saw her bathing in the wooden tub by the fire. Steam rose around her like a halo. Water ran down her brown skin as she lifted her arms to wash her long dark hair. She was beautiful in a way that made his chest ache. When she turned slightly, he saw everything. He should have looked away. A gentleman would have. But Samuel Garrett had never claimed to be a gentleman. When she came out of her bath wrapped in one of his shirts, hair damp and curling around her shoulders, she found him sitting at the table cleaning his rifle harder than needed. "The woodpile is very well chopped," she said, sitting across from him. The shirt barely reached mid-thigh. "Had to work off some energy," he muttered. She smiled, slow and knowing. There are other ways to do that. That night she didn't go to the bed. Instead, she sat beside him on the floor near the fire. Close enough that he could smell the soap on her skin, feel the warmth from her body. The truth. "Tell me about Captain Mitchell," she said quietly. Samuel's hand stopped moving on the gun-cleaning rag. "How do you know that name?" "Because I worked for him as a translator." Her voice carried old pain, carefully controlled. "He was a good man, Samuel. One of the few who tried to do right by my people." Was. The Apache knew about the attack on Mesquite Canyon 3 days before it happened. Knew there were women and children in those houses. She stared into the flames. Captain Mitchell planned to warn them. Let them escape before the raid. Samuel's blood went cold. He knew about Mesquite Canyon. The official report said they'd found only warriors. What happened? Someone told Colonel Hayes that Captain Mitchell was giving away secrets. That his translator was feeding information to the enemy. She turned to look at him, tears reflecting the firelight. They took Captain Mitchell's command away the night before the attack. Sent him back east in shame. Jesus. The pieces fell into place with sick clarity. Colonel Hayes led the raid himself. 26 women and children died. "Samuel, I could have stopped it if I had been there to translate Captain Mitchell's warning. Instead, I was in chains, accused of being a spy." Her voice broke slightly. "They're hunting me not because I betrayed America, but because I failed to betray it completely." He reached for her then, unable to stop himself. His rough fingers traced the tear tracks on her cheek, and she leaned into his touch like a flower seeking sunlight. "I know Morrison," he said softly. "Served under him at Fort Apache. He was the kind of officer who would have done exactly what you said." "Then you believe me?" "I believe you." Love found. The words came easier than breathing. She covered his hand with hers, fingers linking together. "And Sterling. He was Davis's man." When Morrison started asking questions about what really happened at Mesquite Canyon, Davis sent Sterling to make sure I never had the chance to tell the truth. "I won't let them take you," Samuel said. The words came out like a promise. Something changed in Isabella's eyes. Surprise, hope, and something deeper that made his heart beat faster. "You would fight for me. A woman you barely know?" "I know enough." His thumb traced the line of her jaw, feeling her shiver under his touch. "I know you saved children at the cost of your own freedom. I know you've been running for months, and you could have kept running past my door, but you chose to trust me." "I chose more than that," she whispered. When she leaned forward, closing the distance between them, Samuel was lost. Their lips met in a kiss that tasted of need and want. Months of careful distance finally breaking down. They came together by the fire that night, two lonely souls finding healing in each other's arms. In the flickering light, with the storm raging outside, they discovered something neither had expected to find again: love. The showdown. 3 days later, Samuel was checking the fence when he saw them. 3 riders moving across the snow-covered plain with the slow pace of men who knew exactly where they were going. Even far away, he knew Blake's shape. Isabella was waiting on the porch when he arrived, her dark eyes already looking at the horizon. "How many?" she asked. 3. "Blake's with them." She nodded, her hand moving to the rifle leaning against the cabin wall. Over the past weeks, he'd taught her to shoot, and she'd learned fast. "What do we do?" "We end this." The riders came into the yard. Blake rode in front, flanked by 2 younger men. But it was Blake who got attention, tall, lean, with pale eyes that missed nothing and a smile that promised pain. Well, Blake called out. "Samuel Garrett. Heard you'd gone soft living out here alone. Didn't expect to find you keeping company with a wanted woman." Samuel stepped forward, putting himself between Blake and Isabella. "State your business and ride on." "My business is with the lovely Isabella Santos." Blake's gaze moved to her, and Samuel saw something hungry flicker in those pale eyes. I've been looking for you for months, sweetheart. I'm not going with you, Isabella said, her voice steady despite the shake Samuel could see in her hands. Blake laughed, the sound harsh as winter wind. Oh, but you are. Dead or alive, the bounty is the same to me. Though alive would be more fun. The threat in those words made Samuel see red. Touch her and die. Big words from a man who ran away from the army. Last chance, Blake, Samuel said. Go to hell, Blake replied. The fight. The silence stretched tight before it snapped. Blake went for his gun first, but Samuel was already moving. 5 years of frontier living had made his reflexes sharp. The Colt came up and fired thunder. The shot took Blake high in the chest and spun him from his horse. The other 2 men were slower to react. Isabella's rifle cracked once, twice, dropping the man on the left. The third rider turned his horse, trying to run, but Samuel's second shot found him before he'd gone 10 yards. The sudden quiet after the gunfire was deafening. Blake lay in the snow, blood spreading like spilled wine beneath him. His pale eyes stared at the grey sky above. Samuel walked over carefully, gun still ready. Blake's breathing was shallow, each breath sending up small puffs of vapor that disappeared quickly in the cold air. Should have minded your own business, Blake wheezed. Should have left her alone, Samuel replied. Blake's laugh turned into a cough that brought up blood. Others will come. Hayes won't let this stand. Let them come. But Blake was already gone, his pale eyes staring at nothing. New beginning. It's not over, Isabella said quietly. He was right about Hayes. Samuel nodded, already thinking about what needed to be done. The bodies would have to be dealt with, the horses turned loose, evidence buried deep. And then they would have to run. Both of them now marked. I know a place in California, he said. Friend of mine from the war owns a ranch there. He'll give us new names, papers if we need them. Isabella looked around the cabin that had been their safe place, her eyes stopping on the windows that had framed so many quiet mornings. Can we be happy there? She asked. We can try. She nodded, turning her back on the dead men and the life they stood for. Then let's go. Ever after. 6 months later, under the California sun that painted the hills gold and green, they found something neither had expected when they ran from Wyoming in the dead of winter: peace. Isabella worked beside him in the vineyard his friend had given them to manage. Her hands were sure among the vines, her laughter carrying on the warm breeze. The nightmares came less often now, for both of them. They had new names now, new papers, a new life built on the foundation of their shared truth. But when she looked at him across their small table, or when he held her in their bed as dawn painted the eastern mountains, they were still Samuel and Isabella, 2 damaged souls who had found healing in each other. The past would always be with them, written in the scars they bore and the care that never quite left their eyes. But the future stretched ahead like an open road, full of hope and promise. On their wedding day, as the sun set behind the California mountains, Isabella whispered against his ear, "We made it." And for the first time in years, Samuel Garrett believed in tomorrow. Sometimes the greatest victory isn't beating our demons, it's learning to live with them while building something beautiful from the ashes of what we've lost.